Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Where do you get this bureaucratic bull?
You have all the character references of a politician.
Intelligence has nothing to do with politics.
This president is not above the law.
If the dirty air don't get you, the politicians will.
The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away.
These orders have forced us to declare independence.
Good evening. It's been a while since we've done Grounds of Expediency, and it's the first time ever that we've live streamed on Odyssey. I thought you had to get to a certain point to do it, but I'm looking at the screen over here, and we're live on Odyssey. And I see someone in the chat over there on that side already, and we'll address that in a minute. But sweet, this is working. It's an impromptu live stream. We've got major events going on the other side of the world, and these guys and I wanted to talk about it, so we're going to do that for a little bit. And I have with me, as always on this particular show, Greg, the Grand High Priest, Holy Order of the Jab.
Hello. I'm a little slow because of a new computer and all that shit.
So you got it put together, huh?
Go through?
Yeah, I did.
Nice. Whew.
So you got it put together, huh?
Yes, I did.
Sweet.
OBS was being a little bit bitchy, but I had to reinstall the plugins.
Very nice.
But it appears to be working.
That's very good, because we have an expert on the job. And then we also have with us, I think for the first time on this particular show, or whatever you want to call it, channel, because we're also simulcasting to the Grounds of Expediency channel on YouTube. We have Deadwood Dale, our longtime friend. What's going on, Dale?
Yeah, all good. You have a lot of fun things to talk about, political news.
Oh yeah, guys, and those watching, we're gonna have fun with this. It's not gonna be like your grandfather's politics stream tonight. We're gonna talk about a lot of takes that we've seen. We were talking about it backstage for a little bit, so yeah, it's gonna be fun. Let's say hi to the chat first. Let's go to the Odyssey side, and it's not integrated with StreamYard. It's kind of hard to set up, but I figured out how to do it. But I have to look at the chats over here on the actual Odyssey stream. Slimer Snarf, the newest member of the channel, a top tier member of the YouTube channel. So by the way, guys, there's the link there. It really helps out. I think we're up to 27 members. It would be cool to get to like 40 by the end of the year. So check out the perks and support me. But yeah, thanks Slimer Snarf. And I see you guys as well in the chat. And I see Doom 222 in the chat. What's going on? Thanks for showing up. And then over here on the YouTube side, we have Tattoo, aka Hang Solo, showing up. Skirmitar is lurking. And Skirmitar has a very unique take on this because he lives over there in Eastern Europe. So he was messaging me some interesting stuff we can probably get into later. So pretty cool. Corey Cochran's in the house. We've got Melissa Lord, the first ever member of the channel, in the house. We have got E. Clay Thomason, longtime member, in the house. Trey Courtney's here. He said on Twitter, you guys go live, I'll listen. Well, guess what? We're live and he's here listening. So sweet. And I think that's it for now. I don't think I missed anyone. So everyone get out there and share the stream out, because we're going to have fun with this one. So yeah, guys, pretty crazy. Like last night I'm sitting right here and just kind of chilling out. It's been a really long week and a long month, actually. And I start looking at the social media. I really didn't have time all day. And I'm like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. So here we are. And then you're seeing stuff now like dogfights in the airspace above Ukraine. And they're having an all-out war there. Did you expect this when you woke up like at the beginning of the week?
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's like the thing.
Like
Go
we
ahead.
had people celebrating that the Russian someone I think Sticks Hexenhammer said the Russian stock market is being hurt big time by this. And clue you into a little something.
For
We
2
share the
days.
same stock market. So like our stocks are down too. Everything. All like a lot of the big blue chips, they're pretty much down across the board. They made a little bit of a recovery today, which is funny because I think it happened the moment Biden said we're not going to be invading the Ukraine. Like, didn't he say something like that? I didn't watch it, but like other people were clipping it, and
Yeah, I think
it,
so. Yeah, I
it's
didn't watch
weird
the whole thing
when
either.
the stocks recovered as soon as he said that. It's almost like, hey, all my insider friends in Congress, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how the market's going to react. They do it all the time. I mean, this is Warmonger 101. Dan
Yeah, it is.
Crenshaw. I don't know if you guys knew this, but like people like to make fun of Nancy Pelosi for being an insider. I think like 4 out of the top 5 insiders who outperform the S&P 500, they're Republican, and Dan Crenshaw is one of them. So Dan Crenshaw only being, in Congress for, as a representative for 3 years is already out inside trading Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, and I remember you did a tweet about 2 months ago where you're like, he's only been in Congress like X number of months and he's already corrupt or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's crazy. He's
So
John McCain, but a lot younger with a lot more energy, and he's already he's already way ahead of
I
where
saw
John
that
McCain
morph
is.
meme that you did today.
He's
And
got the he's got like the military sympathy card, like I was a veteran and I lost my eye, which thank you for your service, but
yeah.
he's using that for sympathy points. He did
Well, I
that
saw
with
that morph
XML.
meme and I thought of Greg immediately. Like, I can't wait until Greg, the biggest John McCain fan in the entire country, sees
Oh
that
yeah,
meme.
yeah, I love that man. He's the greatest senator we've ever had, and wow, what a great presidential candidate he was. Yeah,
Oh, good grief. I had
and
a
his wife,
blog at the
and his
time.
wife and daughter are just very lovely people.
Yeah, I had a blog at the time. It was called Hard to Starboard. I think I had it from like 2005 to like maybe 2008. And I would go over the election stuff like every couple of weeks. And that whole slate that we had was awful. You had like, what was that actor's name that was like, oh, the second coming of Reagan, guys? It's him.
Fred Thompson.
Awful. Fred Thompson. You had Rudy, who was at that
He's
point.
gonna sell. He just sells you reverse mortgages.
Yeah, exactly. Well, until he died. You
Right.
had Rudy. You had shit. Who else? The idiot. Huckabee. You had Huckabee. You had. I mean, just everyone
Oh,
on that. Everyone on that ticket on that whole lineup was awful. I'm like, this is. Can't you guys come up with something better than this for me to vote for? By the way, I am wearing my shirt here. Not the perfect party, but if you're gonna vote, it's probably the best party. Because the old saying from Friedman about the capital R and the lowercase L, libertarian and Republican. But the point is, yeah, that was an awful lineup, and McCain was like the highlight of it, and somehow he got the nod. So
it wasn't somehow. It was Mike Huckabee.
yeah,
Mike
because it was down to
Mike
those two, right?
Well, no, because it was a there was a three-way, and I forget who the other candidate was, but Mike Huckabee had this strategy of basically staying in the race when he hadn't won jack shit, just so he could siphon away the South away from the second runner up. So in the delegate count. So like maybe it was Mitt Romney, but basically
Yeah,
he
I believe that
he
too.
stayed in there long enough to prevent the second place person from accumulating enough delegates in the South where he would have had Huckabee not run. It was a deflection, and because he had absolutely no path to winning the nomination, he stayed in it to spread the delegates around more in the later states in the South. So
yeah, what an awful time.
If you hated John McCain, the presidential candidate, you can thank Mr. Huckabee for that.
Yeah, what an awful year for an election, and the result was awful too.
Wow,
So
the
anyway,
worst possible candidate you could put up against Barack Obama.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like, it rivals Bob Dole versus Bill Clinton.
Yeah, it does.
As far as like, oh, let's take everything that's popular about our competition and like put the exact polar fucking opposite up. That'll siphon votes.
Yeah, well, it was a joke. And then the actual election season was awful between Obama and McCain. Just, it was awful.
Well,
What a
it's
bad
because
time to be alive as an American.
He didn't even try and run a competitive campaign. He just let Obama walk all over him and wouldn't go after him.
I remember, I think I've told this story before. I think it was somewhere in Oklahoma. This black guy stood up, a conservative, and he's like, "Sir, like, we're losing. Like, you have to do something. You have to go on the attack. Like, I'm begging you." And then, and this guy was serious because he could see where it was going. So McCain, like, comes off the stage, marches down the aisle, shakes his hand and nods and is like, "I'm doing it." And then the crowd is like up on their feet clapping. Guess what? He didn't do it. So
no,
I think that was a few weeks before he made the comment that his opponent was a great family man and all this other garbage. So,
yep.
It was also like, I don't know if you guys are talking about 2008, but it was kind of
yes,
an extension of what they tried to do to, you know, keep Bush from getting his second term. Try to twist the whole Afghanistan situation, Iraq. Try to twist that in a negative light because that's the one reason why he's getting reelected. So
yeah,
that going into 2008, his whole campaign, I know Obamacare was his crowning achievement, but the reason why people voted for him, outside of course being black, that's a lot of the reason why. They voted for him because they thought, you know, we're gonna bring our troops back home. You know, we're gonna stop being a fucking warmonger nation, the world's police.
yeah. The Democrats are the party of peace, Dale. Right?
Yeah, used to be. And they, I mean, John McCain was basically the perfect punching bag because every time, you know, what's your thought? What are your thoughts on Iran, John? Let's fucking bomb them. Let's bomb them.
Remember the song? Remember
Yeah.
the song? Bomb, 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 Iran. What the worst? I mean, the worst moment of any presidential candidate ever. I mean, that was awful.
It was
crazy,
pretty awful. But see, McCain is the worst possible person you want in any leadership in any organization, much less the Republican Party. Because basically, when you win the primary in the Republican, basically it's your party now. You're the top guy. You know, the entire ticket up and down, you know, sinks or swim based on your platform. And McCain had this. If you look at McCain throughout his whole career, he's never happier than when he's backseat complaining.
Oh yeah.
He never actually, like, he was thrilled to go on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News and just complain about whoever was run in the White House at the time. And that's when he seemed to be actually the most happy, like personally happy, is when he was out of power. And then he could just lob complaints and accusations against whoever was in power. But he's not the kind of guy that once you give him power, he isn't going to be able to do anything because he just.
Yeah, I mean, to think about it this way, he served the same purpose for the right that AOC is serving now for the left. All he did was just bitch and complain about stuff. And he got a lot of attention for that. That really works. You're running a campaign on complaining. However, 20 something years later, a couple failed presidential campaigns later, you're fucked, right? Everyone can see through you. Everyone knows what you're about. You're a warmonger. And we've gotten to the point now. Remember when marijuana legalization used to be an anti-Republican thing? Like that used to actually matter. No one cares about it anymore. Like nobody cares about that. Same thing, I think mostly with gay marriage is a thing of the past. And now Republicans, and you can thank Donald Trump for this, have moved past the need to cheer on warmongers. And that's probably the biggest reason why the establishment hates Donald Trump, because he moved on, he shattered the mold, and Pandora's not going back in the box. Your constituents, they don't want this more of the same, because more of the same is just going to keep failing. It's going to keep coming in second place.
Well, here's the thing with Trump. If I'm reading Trump correctly, I don't think he's necessarily like anti-interventionist, because I mean, you can go, if the problem is the extremes. Like if you're the McCain, invade every country, do regime change every single place on the entire planet. He was pro Libya, Syria, all this stuff. And then you have, the opposite is kind of the Buchanan kind of approach, the head in the sand. Like, I don't think that's good either.
Isolationist, yeah.
Yeah, isolationist. What sold me on Trump with foreign policy was this attitude is like, hey, fucking Europe, do your own jobs. Like, it's in your neighborhood. You're not contributing nearly anywhere near the agreed amount for that you're supposed to be spending as a percent of GDP on your own defense. You're just relying on the United
2%.
States, 2%, which is not a significant number as a percent. And it's like, hey, this shit's
I have a
happening
graph
in your
I'm going to pull up. Keep talking.
This shit's happening in your backyard. If you're concerned about Ukraine or Syria or refugees here, refugees there, then why does the United States necessarily have to be the lead dog on this thing? Why is the United States the one contributing the most blood and treasure for shit that's going on in your own fucking backyard?
And here's the thing on that. I'm trying to find this graph that I found on some fucking website on my phone, but I think for 2020, I think it was like 3.75% of our GDP went toward military expenditure. It was something like 720 billion, something like that. Mm-hmm. So, here's what's happening when we do that, and these other countries in NATO, and the 2% was unofficial until about 10 years ago, maybe 15. Before then, it was just like this unofficial number, and no one ever even tried. But now they actually have to try, and not all of them have hit it. I think the average is 1.7%. And think about that. When we have 3 point something, everyone else is lower, it's 1.7. So that tells you what they're doing. But here's what's happening. What that means is that we're subsidizing, right, all these other countries, not just their military expenditures, but all their expenditures, because they're not contributing what they should, right? Even as a percentage of their own GDP, not just in the absolute value of it.
Yeah, the United States with the
that's what we're doing. We're subsidizing them.
Is going to have the most raw dollars.
Absolutely.
Simply because we have the largest economy in terms of GDP. But even then, it's like, hey, maybe you guys shouldn't like freeload on us the entire fucking time. And
that's my point.
Contribute to your own defense. It's like there's how many major economic powers in Europe, and they're organized in the EU, and most of them are NATO anyway. Like, look. You guys have the population and you have the economy to support military action in Ukraine if you think Ukraine is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many that aren't paying. They're not paying their fair share, and we're not talking like anywhere near what we're paying. We're talking percentage wise, what would be fair for them to pay, and they're still not fucking paying it. It's incredible.
No, and they've been getting away for it so long because we've had this dumb idea that like the proper course of action as far as foreign policy goes is that other countries like us.
Yeah.
We want to be liked. And it's I'd rather be respected. I just me personally, like I think like when you approach foreign policy and you can't like I don't think isolationism is the route to go. I don't like we've tried that. History's tried that. It didn't work out very well. And appeasement and isolationism does not typically yield great results.
Mm-mm.
And you're basically just delaying the inevitable, which is war anyway. But I think that with Ukraine, as much as like, look, I've seen this on Twitter, and a lot of people are just like, well, if you're not for going into the Ukraine, then you're pro-communist or you're pro-Russia or something.
Oh yeah,
Right.
saw that.
Like, no, you can actually be opposed to the Russians going in and taking over the Ukraine, but also not be willing to contribute militarily to their defense, or willing to send our people and spend our money in their defense. Like both things can be true at the same time. It's like I am definitely not for Russia taking over Ukraine. That's a bad thing. The end result there is not going to be good. But I also
I
don't
think is
it's the
funny.
United States' responsibility to intervene. I think it's Europe's responsibility.
Yeah.
Europe needs to get off their ass and do something for a change.
You know what I think is really funny? All these people whinge nonstop about McCarthyism whenever,
Yeah.
It's their time to play the communist and the socialist. And we call them out for it. And you're like, oh, you're trying to bring back McCarthyism, huh? No, not wanting to go to war with Russia over Ukraine means that we're Putin allies. I think that's pretty ironic. And I don't know if you've seen this, but in the NHL, there are a lot of Russian players who have not denounced Vladimir Putin. In fact, they've shown their support for him. And I have a weird feeling that we're about to see them get FDR'd. They're going to get that treatment from FDR again. They're going to have to join George Takei and the fucking internment camp. No Russians allowed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It's cancel culture, right? Just because you're Russian and you have an opinion and you're on US soil, you're going to get locked up. So, or you're going to get fired or suspended or whatever. I can see it happening. It's weird. I don't know. It's almost like because Putin was associated with Trump, that's why they hate him, right? That's why they decide, not because he's a dictator, because for decades, that ideology, that party, whatever you want to call it, they've loved their tin pot dictators and stuff. So something about him isn't good, and they don't like it.
I'll tell you.
But the funny thing is, it never matches with reality. Like, look, like what was one of the first things that Biden did when he took office? Eliminated the sanctions that Trump put on Russia.
Yeah, I saw Razorfist talking about that this morning.
Like
So,
if you look at the last 20 years, who's been tough on Russia?
mm-hmm.
It's Trump.
And that was them doing that too. That was their connection, him and Putin. And I think a lot of that had to do with he campaigned against China, right? Because he was more of an economic powerhouse compared to, caring about competing with the military against Russia's. Because Russia's not the same kind of threat. Russia really isn't. Compared to China, they have a strong military, but they really have a strong military to maybe say, we can threaten some nukes. That's it. They can't go. They
don't
can't
have
last.
the assets to.
They don't have the economic backbone to support lengthy warfare.
Look at
No,
this
I
right
heard
here I
somebody
have
say
on the
that they were-
screen. That's what I was talking about earlier. This paints the picture right here when you think of, it's Russia, it's China. Well, look at this right here. And it's not just the percentage, guys. Look at the billions of US dollars spent on military. And then look at the 3.74%. We dwarf them in that regard.
Yeah, we're spending less percent than Russia, but look where Russia is in raw dollars, because Russia has the economy of like Florida.
Yes.
That's their GDP equivalent, and it's very reliant on.
Oh, did you say Florida?
Yeah.
DeSantis for president.
Oh, sorry.
Oh God.
But
he said things I liked about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So he should be president.
He has really nice hair.
I don't dislike him. I just haven't seen enough from him to say like, yeah, he's going to be the guy. I think that if you look at Russian spending, or you look at like where we should put our attention, because let's say we commit, hypothetically, we commit to going to war in Ukraine and essentially then with Russia in some sort of large scale or even medium scale level. What happens in Asia then? I'm a lot more concerned about Taiwan than I am about the Ukraine. Not because I dislike Ukrainian people and I'm just in love with people in Taiwan, but economically, Taiwan is going, if Taiwan has a conflict that affects their ability to produce, 80% of the world's microchips, that's a problem. That's a big fucking problem for us. Like we have a commitment to help Taiwan. Although we have promised Ukraine things too. We like to promise things that we can't deliver.
Like to play both sides.
Well, yeah, and I guess if you're another country in the world, I wouldn't necessarily rush to embrace the United States at this point. Sad to say, but we don't keep our word anymore. But you go back and back to the Trump thing, like whose Secretary of State had a little reset button for U.S.-Russian relations? Wasn't Trump. It was Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State for Barack Obama that had the big red reset button for Russia. It was Barack Obama who made the joke in the debates in the 2012 elections that the 80s called they want their foreign policy back, right? Because Romney said correctly that Russia is still a geopolitical problem. It was like, who's been defending Russia and poo-pooing this whole Russia bad thing? Like, it's been the other side the entire time. And yet now we're supposed to believe that, according to people, brilliant scholars like, God, what's her name on MSNBC?
Oh, Maddow.
The
Maddow,
reason that Putin didn't do anything while Trump was in office is because they're buddies.
He's just doing this to make Biden look bad.
I retweeted that yesterday. I think it was last night.
Yeah.
Jeez,
and you can sanction China, Timon, but like, are the we already have. The other thing is, like, we're not in a really great spot ourselves in the United States either. We can't put shit on the shelves right now.
Yeah, I mean,
and
China,
so like you want to do a sanction thing against China? Well, okay, that'll free up the ports, because they won't have any more boats
Well,
coming in.
the chip thing is a concern. You know,
A massive
you guys know
concern.
what I do for a living, and yeah, it's making a huge impact on more than one sector because guess what? Those things are in
Everything's got a
everything.
fucking chip.
Everything.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Your toaster's
We
got a
made
fucking
sure-
chip in it these days.
Yeah, we made sure a long time ago that China became the world's #1 exporter. That's our fault. So who else are we going to go buy? Like, where are we going to go to buy? We can't. We're going to threaten our economic force. We made them the only sellers. We made them
Yep.
that way. So
Well, I
it's
mean-
more effective because, Russia might need something from us. China, they might want our money, but, it's a third world country glorified. If you measure per capita, China's pretty poor, but they really don't care.
Yeah.
They really don't. They don't need
And they have massive debt issues as well. Which like the problem is when you get a country like that, then the way that they can rally their people is through expansion. And sorry, Timon, I didn't pick up the sarcasm in text, but like. There are things we can do about the chip thing. And like maybe not waste money on shit like fucking corn fuel. And I don't know. Here, you know what I would do if I were president right now? I would say, Elon Musk, I'm gonna give you a $10 billion income and capital gains tax credit. Just build a fucking plant. Build a plant in the United States that makes chips, and we'll give you like that entire tax bill that you had for the stocks you sold. We'll just take it off the books. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's like, and it's not even an actual expense. Like we're actually taking money out of somebody else's pocket and giving it to him. We're just simply not taking it from him with on the promise that he's going to just build a fucking chip plant. Hire somebody, like you don't have to do it personally. Like he's a pretty busy guy, but he's just start now because these things take years to build and it's overdue. It's a national security issue. It is a vital resource. We have to be able to produce it here. Because remember when the whole pandemic started, we were all like, "Oh my God, how could we be so reliant on importing all these chemicals for our pharmaceuticals?"
Yeah.
Well, chips are no different.
I'll tell you why that is. We are so obsessed with getting the right price for everything. Like we have our own oil, right? It's just cheaper to get our oil from the Middle East. It's easier to get it elsewhere because, we pay them much less. And we sell ours elsewhere, so we make more money that way.
Yep. And here's the thing. Again, what I do for a living, I have to look at it a different way because use this example. Let's use gasoline as an example that we pay at the pump, right? Not a barrel of oil. But let's say where I live, like right around the corner here at the gas station, gas unleaded is I think right now it's like 3 something, like 305, let's say, right? Wait a minute. For some reason, the gas station by the airport, it's like 270, right? The problem is the airport's 45 minutes away. So am I going to drive 45 minutes away to get that, not only waste gas doing it, but also put wear and tear on my vehicle and all that. So the example there is,
just your time is, yeah.
Yeah, well, that too. It's your total cost of ownership. It's your indirect costs and all that stuff. So Dale's right. Oh, let's focus on getting this best price, but you got to factor in the total value of something, and the value of making it here is that we avoid this risk and that risk and other associated costs that come from importing oil at the cheaper price. So that's what we have to get past, is looking just what the price tag is on something and looking at the total value of something. That's
And have you heard
that's what you have to do.
You guys have heard the term skilled labor, right? That's
Yeah.
how we sell our shit off at a premium, because the workers we have are skilled. They're educated over here. You go over to some third world country, you can pay pennies for shit that you sell off, 1,000 times more expensive. And I think, that's really the biggest concern, is that we've been in that, we've had that mentality for so long. We let it get ahead of us.
Yeah.
And it's affecting our national security, because if you let China control 80% of the world's microchips, they've won. They've won the information
with
age.
the other 20 pretty much being
Yep.
South Korea, which
Yeah.
is also pretty kind of at risk in that neck of the woods.
Yeah. What's up, Alora? But yeah, that's my point. You got to look at the total value of something in the indirect cost, because think about this. The accountants, all they care about is the cost. Like, even in companies like where I work, that's what they care about. Like, what does the number say on the book? But you're not thinking, well, shit, I'm working these fuckers, 14 hours a day, and the people in the office are working almost as long, and that's making them want to quit. And they do quit. We got to replace these people. You got to pay recruiters money to find new talent and all that. They're not factoring that in. That paper that says, hey, this is what we paid for something, that's what matters. And we've got to get past that. We've got to be able to look at the whole picture and be smarter.
Well, especially with critical goods. Like, I don't really give a shit if a bunch of as seen on TV kitchen gadget garbage is mass produced for pennies.
I can cut this shoe in half with this knife. Yeah.
Right. You know, like all that shit. Go ahead, manufacture that fucking shit in China. I don't give a shit. But when you're talking about like critical core goods, the stuff that you need to make anything else, that is an issue. I mean, that's one of the things that, like, there's, again, you can't go to the extremes. You can have like, oh, I'm a free trader, I want just global free trade, and it's like, yes, but there is a national security aspect. Like, do you really want us to import all of our steel, or do you want to be able to produce some of it at home? Because if we need to, let's say a world war breaks out and we need to replace equipment that's getting busted on the battlefield, what's one of the most core components of pretty much everything that drives or flies? Fucking steel.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have some of these things, and in some cases, tariffs and a little bit of protectionism isn't all bad.
Right.
And again, it's like you can't live in this ideological world where like where everything is equal, and if we can't subsidize this and we're free trade, we can't have tariffs on this in order to protect some of our industries from getting sabotaged and undercut by foreign competitors. There are critical things that we need to produce here at home so we continue to have a home. And that's where, like, for the most part, I wasn't a big fan of Trump's tariff regime. I didn't mind the steel one so much. And it did cost the consumers more for some of those goods, because it did make the price of steel more expensive.
Yeah.
But again, you gotta have that critical industry. You can't rely on the world being able to ship it to you.
But you have to also factor in, do you have the workforce to do it as well? And are you ready? If you're a politician making that decision, are you ready for the backlash you're going to get, right? Whenever you do that, and then the price of goods that commodity goes into starts to go up, and then they start asking questions why. So you have to be ready for that, and that's another reason it doesn't happen a lot either.
It's a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because when you get into tariff wars, it's you slap a tariff on a country's chief export into your country. Guess what they're going to do to your chief export into theirs? And it doesn't even have to be related. They're going to be like, and it happens all the time. Be like, oh, you're gonna put a tariff on our steel. Well, we're going to put a tariff on your corn and beef.
Right.
Because that's what we import a lot from you. Because the idea is to make it sting in retaliation for you making it sting them. It's complex, and there's not a formula where you can just say like all tariffs are bad or all free trade is good. The world doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of move into the actual topic of Ukraine. So pretty crazy. And what I was going to say earlier on in the stream is, when it comes to war, right? I think it's a lot easier, but not easy to think about it when it's a really, really bad guy fighting another really bad guy. It's like they're going at it. You think of World War II and stuff like that, but here you're thinking, here's, in the 21st century, we are a lot more civilized than we used to be. So you think, here they come rolling in. You've got dogfights in the airspace above Kiev and other parts of Ukraine, and they're like these neighbors are blowing each other out of the sky, and it's like everyday people, are just being affected by it for what reason. So that's what's really hard to understand about this. It's not like, oh, it's 10 years of National Socialists building up in Germany, and then they start taking over. Oh, we got to fight them. It's we're just going to invade, and there's a lot of collateral damage. So it's really hard to believe this is actually happening, in 2022, but it is by two European nations. We're not talking about, some third world shitholes that are fighting each other. It's really hard to fathom that it's happening. So with that being said, it's happened, right? They're fighting as we speak, and we can talk about what is it about? Like why is Putin doing this? What's his ultimate goal, and what does he do next? Is he going to go after the Baltics?
Yes.
That are members of NATO, which means, due to, I believe, Article 5 of the treaty, means that other NATO members would have to come to their defense.
That's the big one. That's the big one. And the funny thing is like Ukraine, like, I don't want to dismiss, what's happening to the people of Ukraine. It's actually, it's quite terrible. Mm-hmm. However, the next thing is Taiwan and the Balkans. The Taiwan is a serious issue for economic reasons. The Balkans, yeah, we actually have like a legal obligation. Like if he goes into the Balkans and NATO doesn't respond, then NATO is effectively defeated. Like NATO means nothing. So like, okay, you went into NATO, why not? Or you went into the Balkans, why not the next thing? Like, at what point do we stop them?
Yeah. Well, and I read something from someone today that's supposedly a Chinese expert, and they don't think that's going to happen with Taiwan for various reasons. I wish I had the article pulled up, but I don't have it right now. So who knows? But
it'd be a hell of an opportunity and a time for them to do it. I think that's what everybody's assuming. It's not a guarantee that it happens. It's just like, if you're China and you want to do it, like this is the moment to do it.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a better time to do it.
Why did Putin go in to Ukraine? Dale?
Yeah.
Why did Putin go into Ukraine?
It was really awkward there. I didn't know who you were talking to. This was according to him, it's because of the threat of genocide, right? That they were advancing on the Russian border, right? They were becoming a NATO ally. That's what really pissed him off.
Yep. Yes. In fact, he tried to get Western nations to agreed to never invite them again into NATO in the last several years. So that didn't happen, obviously. What's going on, Rhino? Um, but yeah, so that's a lot of it in large part. But plus, I think it was welcomed by a lot of the Russian nationalists living in Ukraine as well. Not all of them, but some of them for sure. Because I think the population is like 20% Russian, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I think
And then
it's higher.
You think it's higher now?
I think it is.
Yeah, because I was looking at some old census data. So even if it's higher, I mean, not all of them are going to be on board because you even look in the streets of like St. Petersburg and wherever else, and they're protesting against their own company and country, I should say, and they're being hauled away by police and stuff like that. But that I think I think the presence of Russians is more of a justification than a reason, right?
Yeah.
Would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
just
more
the
of a
excuse.
justification. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at some really, really funny memes right now. I'm trying to find some good ones.
Yeah, find those and we'll pull them up. But yeah, and not only that, but again, I think it's a first step. He's already been fucking with them, so he takes care of them, and then maybe he moves on to the Baltics. Because if you'll remember, in 2004, I think all those former Soviet republics joined NATO. I think it was like in '04 because it was spun as a big win for Bush and all that stuff. Like, yay, we got Latvia and Lithuania and all those other countries. So that really pissed off the Ruskies when that happened. So yeah, they probably want to win all that back because number one, it's a pride thing. Number two, you get all those resources as well, and they're able to grow their borders at the same time. So that's why they're doing it, guys. Again, but just to fathom that any country, right? Any civilized country in 2022 is doing that is crazy. And here, look over here in the Western Hemisphere. Like, it's not like we have Canada and the United States every 10 years we flare up into a war, or with Mexico or wherever else. You've got some fighting going on in Central America occasionally and stuff like that. But Europe has been a fucking mess for what, 500 years now, and it's never stopped ever. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Europe is. For about a millennia, France and England going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. And the Middle East is almost exactly the same way between Persia and the Arab nations. So you have like
and then not to mention Israel. So
they're a newer addition, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people like to play politics with Israel all the time. I think that whole situation was to just pit one side against the other in the Middle East. That's what we do in the West. We like doing that. We like taking something that's a centuries old conflict, something that's maybe thousands of years old because, Arabs and Persians, that goes back forever ago.
Yep.
And constantly poking the bear and saying, well, we'll help you against those Iranians, right? We'll help you against them because, nuclear threat. Everyone likes to, like we talked about John McCain earlier. It's kind of a microcosm, the whole Russia thing. Everyone likes to fearmonger Iran. And Iran, people actually, if they took the time to look into it, Iran is not really a threat to their neighbors at all. They really aren't. they're really they're scared because they're surrounded by their enemies. They really are. And it's like a North Korea situation where their leaders mouth off all the time. And that's just to keep people, keep them away. Like, we're a threat. We'll fight back if we have to. Cause I forget, I get them confused all the time, but there's the Sunni and the Shia Muslims, and Iran, I believe they're Shia.
Shia, yes.
Yeah, and Saudis, Emiratis are Sunnis, and you have, of course, the Sunnis in Afghanistan have taken over. You have Al Qaeda, ISIS, radical Sunni, and Iran's like right in the middle of that. So they have the Gulf, and that's some protection, I guess, but not really, because the Arabs, the Emiratis are crazy good. Their technology now, as far as clandestine military warfare goes, they don't even really need to engage in conflict as we used to know it. They have specialty drones. They have we were talking about microchips. They have very sophisticated technology. We're talking about some of the wealthiest people who ever lived were Arabs. So they've got the funds. They've got the funds for very sophisticated warfare. If they really wanted to, they could wipe Iran off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And that's the funniest thing about this, is that we're continuing to get involved in that conflict without even first considering, maybe if we just stayed out of it, they would figure it out on their own. It's the West, we have to figure out what's going on here at all times. We have to play police. We have to play mediator. It's so fucking stupid, because if you took the time to look into these cultures, you know that the majority of the people in these nations, they're not looking for bloodshed.
Yeah. Because we're coming once again to save the motherfucking day, yeah. So, that's the way it works. Yeah, look, what Greg was talking about earlier, maybe after 9/11, up until about 10 years ago, I was like really trying to figure out like what is my ideal philosophy. And I think that's a journey anyone should always be on, but I was pretty interventionist at that point, and I think we need to be to a point. But here in this situation, like I said, 500 plus years, go back even further. I mean, go back to 1066 AD, whenever France invaded England that time. They've been fighting all over that damn continent. So at some point, unless you let them figure it out on their own, and not in the way that we did in the 1930s, because in my opinion, we probably should have gotten involved a little bit earlier than we did before it got to the point that it did. But with something going on like today and last night, I don't think it's something to the point where we need to jump in right now. Like, someone else needs to step up. Maybe they need to be taught how. Are we the right ones to teach them how? We used to be. I don't know if we still are, but there's got to be someone smart enough on strategy to be able to coach whoever it is over there. Here's how you approach this. But again, sending our guys in and our gals in and our she, hey, them, whatever in that we have in the military now, probably not what we want to do on day one. So we need to take a measured approach to it. Because I think 15 years ago, I would have been all for it, because I was kind of in this pissed off post 9/11 mindset where I was really interventionist in my political philosophies. So, speaking of which, though, maybe we could take the advice of this meme that you sent me. That's what I was laughing at earlier, dude.
Yeah.
This meme is what is going on Twitter, what has been going on Twitter all damn day. So let's take a look at this here. All right. So what you've got here is you've got the guy with the blue and yellow flag. That's the Ukrainian flag. You've got the United Kingdom's flag. You've got the European Union. And then you got the United States. And this is Lord of the Rings, right? So it looks like Gimli is European Union. It looks like Aragorn is United States. And it looks like, what the fuck is the elf's name?
Legolas.
Legolas is United Kingdom. And then I guess is that supposed to be Frodo as Ukraine?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will do it. I will face Russia to the Fellowship. And then Aragorn says, "You have my sword." And then Legolas says, "And you have my bow." And then Gimli says, "And my axe." And they're like, "See ya." And then there goes. And he even gave him his hat. So
I think that's is that like the NATO? Does NATO have a flag? What's the other flag there at the bottom?
On the right? Oh yeah, NATO's flag is Gandalf on the right.
Yeah, I mean that's everybody on Twitter. Everyone likes to posture.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Let's just let's say okay.
This is a horrible thing. It's just so
exactly.
bad.
Let's send a message and then you're good. Like all I got to do is reply and say thoughts and prayers, right?
Yeah,
and that's it. And I'm done. And then you should be good. That's kind of what their mindset is. Do you have that one that we talked about? The teenage girl one. Do you have that one?
I'll find it.
That doesn't sound good, by the way. No, Timon. Yeah, the EU one is like the circle of stars, but we were talking about the one on the right of the group in the bottom panel that was on Gandalf. That's the fucking NATO one. It's like they took this generic star out of one of the fonts, that comes on every computer since like 1987. And they used that on the blue background, and that's the NATO flag. Yeah, here it is. Dude, I literally giggled at this one for like 3 minutes as soon as I read it, because this is what's been going on. So this is like Baby Tom, right? Is that who this is?
Yeah.
Or is it Jerry? It's Tom, because Tomcat. 14-year-old girls after they put peace in Ukraine in their Twitter bio, but nothing happens.
It's like every there was a trend on Facebook where there was I guess an app that you could use to put the French flag over your
yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Yes.
And then there was also the meme making fun of that, where it's Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons going, I'm helping. I got the flag in my profile.
I don't even remember what that was about. Was it about the newspaper?
Yeah,
the office attack? Charlie Hebdo. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Damn. Man.
Yeah, hashtag activism, everybody. That's what really works. You just signal that you care, and then you can just kind of like, I did my part.
That's what really pisses me off about our country, because we are very much pro altruism. That's why we get involved in every conflict, because we like to preach to people. We like to moralize. Yeah. What really pisses me off now is that there's certain levels. Well, my altruism is better than yours because I think racism is a worse affliction than violence. Like I don't think the middle class should suffer, and I really do care about the average American in that way, economically. Well, you're really not the kind of person I am. You're not the kind of selfless that I am, because I care about racism. That's what fucking pisses me off the most. Yeah. Because you can't really call yourself selfless. You can't really call yourself an altruist if you are so quick to dismiss someone else's cause.
Yeah, and I hope I don't offend anyone here, but if I do, I do. But there's no difference between those people that are like, oh, racism, fighting and being anti-racist is my religion, than the really religious people, like the ones that say D&D is satanic and I'm such a great person because I go to church every Sunday and maybe 2 other nights a week, and I do all this stuff, and I'm better than you because of it. There's no difference. It's the exact same concept. Looking down on someone else because you think that your belief system, and that's what that is, being anti-racist. It's a belief system based on no kind of logic or it has no basis in how can I put this? It's all just made up horseshit. And that's the whole point. We've talked about this before. They want to put you into groups, right? And say racism instead of individual action. Like this guy, two different races got into a fight. It must have been racism. No, it was two guys that don't like each other fighting. Whenever you come up with racism, you put this guy in this group, that guy in this group, and then you put them together. And that's why like stuff like CRT is coming about, because it enables them to put us in groups, right? And once they put us in groups, guess what happens? Here comes the neo-Marxism. So that's what you're looking at, guys, whenever you see that type of language.
Timon, I think Skirmitar and Timon have some good points here. First,
I can barely read it. My contacts are jacked up. No one in Europe will step up. UK is outing from the EU already. Germany military became dog shit because of political reasons. France have military power, but that's it. Yeah, they have nukes too. And that's another thing, guys, when it comes to NATO, they left NATO not as a member, but as a military contributor a long time ago, like in the 60s or 70s. Well, they came back, I think, like in 2009, and they were allowed to keep their nukes. I think the fact that they had those was like a no-no, and that's kind of why they left. So yeah, they do have nuclear power and weapons.
Yeah. His second thing is like, look, the point is right there. Europe's energy policy has been disastrous, and that has given the Russians leverage over Europe, which now, like, you can play the sanctions game, but it's a game of chicken, because it's like, how much are the German people or the other people of Europe willing to pay for natural gas if they're not getting it from Russia? And so then it's a game of like, who's gonna crumble first? The sellers of the gas or the people who need the gas who now are paying up the ass for it? So these things, policies matter. I know in politics, a lot of people, it's cult of personality and that kind of things. And like, oh, don't get into the weeds too much and everything. But like, these things really, really do matter. And things like energy independence does matter. It matters quite a bit, because if you are relying on somebody else for natural resources, they have leverage over you. And that's kind of what happened there. And then to Timon's point, altruism, U.S. altruism is BS. U.S. never put soldiers down in places where it couldn't profit from it. I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with it. I don't think the United States in many situations should be trying to make a moral argument in some of these cases. It should be just like, literally, they shouldn't do the moral argument and is like, it's our job to right injustices throughout the world. No. Why should it be our job to right injustices throughout the world? It should be our job to right injustices throughout the world where we have interest that affect us. Fight for your own justice.
Yeah, and the thing there is, what is our interest, right? Like, go back again to World War II. It wasn't our interest until the very last second, when England was about to get got, and then what would have happened next? You've seen a lot of the projections on that. So, it's who has the will and who has the way more than anything. But I think we're losing that here. We're losing a lot of the will. What if we had this generation in 1939? Like what would have happened in that war?
We'd be speaking German right now.
Or Japanese, yeah.
More likely.
But hey, at least you'd have a lot of anime, Dale.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it would have existed if Imperial Japan had.
In retrospect, that might have been a better fate. Because when you think about it, science and technology advancements, who's usually leading? Like, who's usually in the top 5? Japan, Germany, us, some other motherfuckers.
Well, Japan,
Yeah.
Japan via substantial rebuilding from the U.S. Like, they weren't a technological powerhouse in 1930s.
They gave us anime. They gave us Nintendo, the PlayStation. I don't know what more you need to hear, Greg.
I heard Nintendo. That's a negative to the world. The world would be better without Mario Kart. Yeah.
Just the word, not necessarily
Suicide
the action.
Forest. I think that should be everybody's safe space if they need one. I mean, their culture's weird. I'm sorry. They do some weird shit. I mean, if you like their anime, that's fine. That's cool. But I'm not gonna judge a country by their entertainment output.
Small Time Republic, I'm sorry I missed this for 41 minutes, but $5 on Streamlabs. The link is at the top of the chat pinned. Here is a tip that's worth approximately a gallon of gas before long. And what's funny is he's not joking and we're not laughing, because that's probably accurate. I think it's that much in some places, almost in the United States right now. So, yikes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You guys drive a lot?
On the coasts? No.
Yeah.
You do really do?
I drive quite a bit.
I probably drive round trip to work 15 miles a day. Is that a little or a lot?
That's a little.
Okay. That's minute. That you do that, you're not even going to put 10,000 miles a year on your vehicle.
It might not even be 15. It might be 14. It's very, very short. So, and a lot of it's like freeway, because I drive from my house a couple miles to the freeway, then zip, and then I get off. Literally go around. What are those stupid things they're installing all over the country? The roundabouts that no one knows how to use.
At the traffic circle.
Yeah, exactly. I get off on one of those and make a couple of turns, and I'm at the office. So, what are you laughing at?
I remember I was driving with my folks a while ago, and we went back to the old place where they grew up, and I didn't understand at first why they were so upset, but we approached one of those roundabouts. It was one of those convoluted ones that they installed in their old area where they grew up, and they were like, God damn it, what the fuck are they doing to our place? What are they doing to where we grew up? They're ruining our childhood with this stupid, weird, this pointless innovation. That's what really causes me to rage more than anything, is when you see just worthless innovation that's celebrated like it actually is innovation. And I've talked about this before, the whole the paradigm of the 2-lane drive-through at fast food restaurants. Get all these lemmings who celebrate it like this is going to make it so much faster. Hey, guess what? You didn't get twice the building. You certainly didn't get twice the kitchen. Why would you get your order quicker? Yeah. All that did was double the number of people who are waiting in line.
Especially if it's a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's
what I was
talking
of that,
about.
I don't mind roundabouts. They're not the cure-all that people think they are. Like, too many municipalities install them everywhere. I prefer them over a 4-way stop.
It's
But
the
when you're
asphalt version of modern architecture, and I hate it.
wow.
I
I don't like
despise
it
it.
either.
The ones
I'm
that
used
look
to
like
'em, so.
flowers, they got to make them look like flowers, and
Oh yeah, I don't like that decorative shit. I just look at that and be like, well, I wonder why the highway bill is so expensive. Um, I don't mind those. The double lanes in the drive-throughs, those are just stupid because you still have the choke point of one window serving
Yep.
the food.
and they
Like,
make you merge too. They make you merge into one lane. So not only did they make you wait longer, but they also introduced traffic, road rage. They made,
Yeah.
they
yeah,
made your life more difficult, and people will celebrate that.
yeah,
You
because
know
like
what I do?
the person who ordered after you like won't in there on the outside lane and they kind of cut you off. It's like they're gonna make the food in the
And I
order.
hate it. I hate it every
I
time
guess
when
it.
I'm sure you guys are the same way. You go to those 2-lane drive-throughs and you're always looking in the other lane to make sure that you're still ahead of the person who was
Yeah.
technically later than you.
And I guess it like as soon as like the one in front of me goes, I'm like, phew. It's
Yep.
like mother, and I don't do it to anyone else. If I know that person goes first, they go first. But if
Right.
it's some Karen or some dumb redneck or whatever, I'm like, no, you're not getting in front of me if you ordered after me. Fuck you.
And some
And
of
In,
these
in
places,
in your
one of the lanes is
suburban.
always faster than the other. So
Mhm.
it
yeah.
pisses you off when you're in the slow lane and everyone else, especially when you're behind old people or you know, soccer mom vans. You should know that right
Yep.
away. They have the
Oh, and
most
you know what pisses me off? This is becoming the fast food thread, but the fast food stream. But here's what pisses me off: when you get like 3 or 4 motherfuckers in a car and they all like order for themselves, and they're like
It's
leaning
like 4
over.
different
I
transactions. Yeah.
want one of these, and it's like, and it takes like 5 minutes the whole process. Or I've done this before. I pulled up behind someone and they're kind of with the window down and the arm is like this big, and they're just like, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, has the person on running the speaker said anything yet? And finally they'll say, are you ready yet? And I'm like, what? You mean it's not
yeah.
the restaurant? And I'm like, hey, hurry up. I'll just go like that. And then they'll kind of look at me crazy and then they'll order.
God, that right there, just being inconsiderate to where you're in the drive-through
Because they're
and you
pieces of
spent
garbage that
minutes.
probably don't work either.
I hate the convoluted orders. It's usually like, 20-year-old girls who need to lose weight, so they end up getting. I want the grilled chicken nuggets, and I want to have like a healthy parfait or some shit. I want to get like a
I want
fruit
you to peel the
salad.
batter off of the nuggets for me, please.
Can I have this without cream? I don't want the cream. Can you dice my apples for me?
Yeah.
I don't want cheese on that. Just get a number one meal. Just know what you're going to eat every time you go through. I mean, I spend maybe 20 seconds giving my order.
Here's another
Here's
one. Hold on, Greg. Hold on. Here's another one when you're behind them and you can see their silhouettes, right? And they're dumbasses. So when I order something, I know what I need to order. It's rapid fire. I want this, like this, with this. And I do it so good that the people, it's too fast, and they're like, what did you want again? But then here's what happens. They pull up, the people in front of you, they order, and then they didn't cover something. Like, do you want it this way or that way? And then you'll see this silhouette go, oh, they're asking this. And then they'll answer them, oh, this way. And then, what do you want to drink with that? Oh, no. Hey, they're asking what you want to drink. That's when I feel like just laying on the horn. Like, do you not know what you order when you order? You dumbasses. What were you going to say, Greg?
here's this isn't rocket science. This is very easy to solve if you're a fast food restaurant. Probably not in existing locations, but if you're building a new fucking restaurant, if you're Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, what the fuck ever, look, you get rid of you do not have the menu in the drive-through. You have little stalls where people can pull up and order on a keypad what they want.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets served, and then you get a mobile number or you get a ticket number, and then that's what you give them in the actual drive-through. No orders can be dispensed or taken in the drive-through lane. If you're so fucking ass backwards that you don't have a fucking cell phone where you can order it on their webpage or through their app, then go park over there, order it on the kiosk, and then get in the drive-through line. Because the rest of us got shit to do. And you must order in the dictatorship of in my dictatorship, there will be no orders to the drive-through that consist of only drinks. Either you're getting food or get the fuck out of here.
Oh, I hate the drink thing.
Get the fuck out of here with your fucking
go to Starbucks
shit coffee. Fuck you.
Go to Starbucks, which is a drink place.
I'm sure this has happened to at least some of you in the chat as well. But you'll go to a place, and I'm not talking about a large order. I'm talking about what you usually get, maybe a little bit extra. They'll give you one of these. They'll tell you, could you pull out to one of the parking spots up there and just wait, 10 minutes because we're still waiting on your chicken.
Woo! I have a story there.
That's the reason why I went there. It's fast food. If I had to wait, I would have just gone inside.
I went to McDonald's, and I can see a McDonald's from my back deck right now because it's winter and there are no leaves on the trees. I can see the golden arch from my back deck. It looks like I live out in the country in the middle of nowhere, but I live in the middle of town. I just have like a bigger property with trees, and it looks like I'm out in the country. But point is, I went to McDonald's about 2 months ago for breakfast on the way to work. Okay. And I was hungry, and I'm like, I got to get something to eat. I ordered a simple sausage McMuffin with egg and a hash brown, 2 hash browns, right? So it's a double drive-through at McDonald's, and I finally get up there, and it was a long ass wait. Oh, you need to pull over there. And I was like, what? For that? After waiting that long in the line? So I pulled over there, and I'm like, gosh, it's 7:40. I have this meeting at 8 o'clock that I have to be on. I'm like, I'm going to give it 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes pass by. They're still not out there. I put it in reverse, and I went to work, and I didn't get my meal. And I was so pissed off. I didn't trust myself calling them to get my money back. It was like a few bucks, like 3, 4 something. So, but the fact that you made me pull forward for 1 sandwich during breakfast hours and 2 hash browns, which all that shit you should have had. It's not like I said, oh, I want a gluten-free, English muffin and all that. No, I just wanted a regular sausage McMuffin with egg and a fucking hash brown, 2 hash browns.
Isn't
That's
that
all
weird
I want.
what you have to pull forward for?
Yes.
Like okay,
some dipshit probably didn't have enough hash browns down is what happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to fast food at 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that, they're probably not doing large batches of fries and shit. So okay, I get it. I'd rather wait a little bit to get
what's up, Matt?
Fresh fries than get the ones that have been under the heat lamp for 3 hours, So I get that, but you're talking like the breakfast menu, and you're going during lunch and be like, how do you not have fries down, man? Like, how do you not have fries ready?
It's even worse.
Maybe now I can understand staffing issues, but it's been like this for years before that anyway.
It's even worse when you go to like a middle tier restaurant, like you go to an Arby's, Roy Rogers, any restaurant where,
or a sandwich shop, maybe
a Popeyes, even like anything where it's not, you don't get the same kind of traffic as like a McDonald's or even a Burger King. And I guess you could also lump in Taco Bell, depending on where the Taco Bell is. But if you have a large order, like if you go to Taco Bell and you have to feed your family, and you go to a chicken place and you have to feed your family, you're going to get, 12-piece something, 12-piece chicken. That's even worse because it's like you're one of the few people that went there in the past hour and they weren't expecting to have to work. So they're like, we didn't have it already
Yeah.
prepared. So we have to make it for you now. That's always the best when you have to wait like an hour for fast food because they're just that bad at their jobs.
I almost threw up at Fazoli's because the food was so disgusting. It's like fast food Italian.
Eaten at
Barf.
a Fazoli's since I was in high school.
It was barf.
Ugh. You just pick out. We go there on our lunch because you just pick out on the frickin' breadsticks. But yeah, I haven't eaten at a Fazoli's. Because I never thought the food was other than the breadsticks. I mean, and okay, it's a piece of bread that's warm, buttery, and garlicky. It's really not hard.
And roll into a circle.
Spaghetti is not exactly a hard thing to cook either, but they fucked that up.
Yeah.
I just never thought that. I thought the food was on par with like microwave, like
worse
Italian dinners.
Yeah, there's some of those I think are pretty good. Like some of those Stouffer's ones, like the premium ones. Those are pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, like the fam. Oh yeah, you get like the family one. You get the big old
Swedish meatballs.
Yeah.
Swedish meatballs. There's like some kind of Asian one. But yeah, Fazoli's was disgusting. I almost vomited.
Oh, they forgot his breadsticks. That's the only reason people go to Fazoli's. I don't know.
Oh man,
you would think that they'd be able to figure some of this stuff out. Like design a building, especially if you're building new buildings. If you're gonna have double drive-throughs, have double pickup windows.
Yeah.
Like
well, some do. Some do
in front of the other. And
there was a burger joint in California called The Only Burger, and it had like the number 1 in italics stylized was kind of their symbol. And every restaurant they had was a double drive-through with 2 windows. It was pretty cool.
Nice, yeah. If you're gonna design it, like if you're gonna have the 2 lanes in the ordering part of it, then have 2 lanes in the making part of it.
Have like an adjacent building where it's nothing more than like you don't have the indoor dining area. It's just the kitchen and the person there taking your money.
Yeah.
And that
you don't even need an extra building at that point because like if you're going to split the kitchens, then you'd split it by task rather than by orders, and then you just run between the 2 of them. But then like it seems like you go to some of these fast food places, like it's almost every damn order that they're having to run outside anyway, because everybody has to pull up into spot 1 or 2 or whatever, unless you're only getting like a drink. You know what I hate the most but I like the food, and you guys probably don't have them anywhere near as Culver's.
Okay.
Culver's.
Never heard of it.
It's a burger place, but it's a little bit more kind of like old diner style menu and things like that. And they do frozen custard and things like that. So when you get to the window, your food is never there. You get a number pretty much no matter what. And then you pull ahead and then they run it out to you because their thing is they make everything fresh. So that's one of their shticks is they make everything fresh. So you will always have to pull ahead. And they have this big, long, area where cars pull ahead and you get a little sticker that you put on your mirror and they bring your order out to you. But during the summer, this is what they do. So you get to the window, you pay your money. They'll hand you your drinks, and then they'll hand you your ice cream. And then you pull forward and wait for your order, the rest of your order. So if you go there and be like, I want the chicken strip basket with some French fries or some cheese curds or whatever, and I also want for dessert, I want a banana split. They'll give you the banana split right away, and then you have to wait for your food. Which in winter probably isn't too bad. But when it's like 90 some degrees outside, that's like your ice cream or your frozen dessert is soup by the time you get your food. Like, no, bring the ice cream out with the rest of the fucking order. Keep it cold in your air-conditioned building. Yeah, grounds of Expediency. Yeah. Well, we can always rant about fast food. There's just so many.
Well, I wonder
frustrating
what
things
fast
in
food
it.
like is in Ukraine right now.
Probably not very fast,
Yeah.
or it's overdone.
Probably tastes like shrapnel, and that's the fast food that they're eating.
It's just all
Have-
overcooked.
Have you guys seen anything on the what are they calling this? The Ghost of Kiev?
No.
Have you seen anything on that deal?
Sounds like some kind of Sony exclusive video game.
No, it's apparently, and I don't know if this is just something being built up on social media, but apparently it's a fighter pilot that has a confirmed 6 or 7 kills, possibly making him the first 21st century ace in the world. Because as you guys know, 6 kills is an ace when you're a fighter pilot. But yeah, it was trending. Let me see if it's still trending. It was a couple of hours ago. Yeah, it's still trending. Son of a bitch.
What if these motherfucking missiles hit the fucking coffin over Chernobyl?
Yeah. Well, in any event, yeah, this guy, apparently this is happening. He was flying around all day and taking out Russian fighter jets. So when you get a chance, check out the trending, and there's all kinds of tweets and stuff about what's going on. It's almost like a legend type thing that's happening here. And I'll be curious to see if it's like a real thing or not. I'm not saying it is on this stream.
It sounds propagandish, like
Yeah,
oh, look
yeah.
at the hero of the the brave resistance fighting the against
Exactly,
overwhelming
because
odds.
100% of the tweets I scrolled through a couple of hours ago were positive. 100%. None of them were like, is this real or is there any proof? It was all, this guy's awesome, this guy's that, and hey, how do you know it's a guy? Are you sexist? I mean, can't chicks fly fighter jets? I mean, what am I asking?
I think in Ukraine they're all cam models.
Oh man!
All right, guys, I'm gonna head off to bed now. It's
On that note,
for me.
He's gonna go watch some Ukrainian cam girls, actually. But
yeah.
There you go. I think I'll retire for the night.
Yeah. Sweet. So I guess we'll see you next week, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, nice talking to you, Tim and Greg, in the chat.
Yep. Later,
yeah.
dudes.
Good night.
Yeah, guys. It's getting pretty late on a work night, so we probably need to start wrapping it up. Let's see. The dude is an Ace Combat protagonist. Yeah. What a Chad. Corey says, if true, he took out fighter that was better than his own. Yeah, because I think they're using old MiGs, like in Ukraine. Didn't confirm if it was real or not. It could be a fake story. I'm going to have to look at it tomorrow and see if there's anything real out there on it.
And then you say, well, it was confirmed. It's like confirmed by who? The Ukrainian government that desperately wants its people to continue fighting.
Yeah. And Scrimatory, you're exactly right. Like when you see stuff on Twitter, a headline or even a video, immediately you associate it with what's going on that day, right? Like, oh, hey, look at that. Like, a bunch of cops beating up a guy. Oh, no, I can't believe. Oh, it's from 15 years ago. People like trolls do that a lot. So I know the one you're talking about. I know exactly the one you're talking about today. And it, like you said, it was from an air show like 12 years ago. So, yeah, you got to be careful. Be very skeptical of everything. That's my advice.
Well, I mean, there's the government of Ukraine has an incentive to put out motivational and propagandist type of things. Don't blame them for doing it.
No, not at all.
I mean, because we've certainly done that. We built movies around it. Dan Black right in the chat and like, oh, Maverick.
Oh, that I forgot about that fucking movie. What happened with
Top
it?
Gun. Top Gun 2. I don't know when that fucking thing's coming out, but
It was supposed to be in the summer, this past
like
summer.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's come out yet.
I don't know if they're trying to like wait until it can get maximum benefit or if there's something wrong with it, you know?
I think maximum benefit. So I'll be honest, like Tom Cruise is a weirdo.
Yeah, big time.
But he doesn't miss that often. Like he's pretty consistent box office easy money. Like The Mummy was a flop. He doesn't have a whole lot of flops to his resume, not really.
All the Mission Impossible movies have been hits.
Yeah, and some of them have been I really enjoyed them. I thought they were great.
I went to the
last
theater
one
to see the first
I really
one.
enjoyed. What's that?
I went to the theater to see the first one in the 90s. And, you know, I'm not really into the action movie stuff, so I thought it was okay for what it was.
Yeah, it was, it was fine. The thing that annoyed me about the first one was that goddamn song. It was like
what, like the original song?
Well, I mean, they kind of like edged it up for the 90s movie versus the original theme, and it was on the radio like all the fucking time. But I enjoyed the last one in particular because it had a tie into some previous ones that was pretty good. But I've enjoyed.
How many of those are there now?
God, I think 7.
Golly, had no idea.
Yeah. Fucker just keeps on trucking with those goddamn things, you know. More power to him. I think he's a weirdo, but
yeah,
he's probably one of the few in Hollywood that over a long span of years has been just solid as far as box office performance goes. He's done a couple like artsy movies and everything too, but like those didn't have he didn't get his normal payday, and they didn't have the Mission Impossible kind of budgets associated with them either, so they weren't expected to do well. But he's been I don't know who else has been as consistent as him. Can you think of anybody? I can't. Like you say, somebody like The Rock, he's like super hit or miss. It's either like gigantic or like loses a fuck ton.
Yeah, look at Arnold, look at Stallone, look at Mel Gibson. Yeah, they're all hit or miss.
Yeah. Arnold. Ugh. I think Arnold has had more misses than hits.
Oh, big time. Oh, I could name some movies that you probably forgot about that he was in, like the one where he goes up against the devil.
Schwarzenegger?
Well, yeah.
Goes up against the devil.
Yeah, it was from like 99. I told you wouldn't remember it. End of Days.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't even remember it. That's how bad it was. End of Days. Trey remembers it, and Blake remembers it.
I didn't hate Jack Reacher One Man Show. Like, I didn't think it was great, but I didn't hate it. But I have no investment in the novels or anything, so I went into it from pure normie aspect. So
yeah.
And I think it did all right. The War of the Worlds, I hated that movie too, though. I thought kids in movies almost always suck. And man, those 2 kids in that movie, I was rooting for the aliens.
Did they use tripods in that movie?
I think so.
Okay. Because a lot of people...
I hated those kids.
A lot of people don't realize that the original book, they weren't spaceships flying around like in the 50s movie. They were tripods. Oh, by the way, there was an article I meant to retweet from a website called Retro Heads with the Z. And they did like a review last week of the War of the Worlds television series from 88 to 89. I have the first season on DVD. It came out whenever the Cruise movie came out. And it was cool because I was clamoring for it because I remember seeing it on TV occasionally and seeing it in Starlog magazine. But let me tell you what, they continued the 50s movie, right? The same design of aliens and the same storyline. But that show, along with a lot of other stuff that was coming out at the time, like a Freddy Krueger show, if you remember that in syndication. There was a Friday the 13th anthology series.
God.
There were a few others. And these shows were in syndicated television, like on, channels around the country. And they were like gory. Like there's a couple of episodes of War of the Worlds that are worse than like some horror movies in the 80s. I don't know how they got away with it on over the air television, but that article talks about it. I haven't read the article yet, but I want to, and I want to retweet it. But yeah, I have the first season. I like the storyline. It was like an ongoing storyline. It wasn't just like, an adventure of the week. The aliens basically, some of them survived, and now they're like body snatchers, basically. And I love a good body snatcher story. That's always kind of fun because you don't know who to trust and all that. And they form a team of people to like find out where the aliens are and all that. So it was a good show, fun, cheesy science fiction show. So
I think the chat's with me on the kids and movie thing.
Yeah, I don't.
Although Sentinel has some examples, I would disagree on Little Giants. I didn't think that was a particularly good one.
No, I get what you're saying. There's, I could name some others.
There's exceptions, of course. Like, and the funny thing is, like, you speak of War of the Worlds, that was Dakota Fanning in that one, right? There's another movie where with Denzel Washington, where she's fantastic in that movie. Like, the ending of that movie is just kills. That movie should have done way better than it did in the box office. It was, I thought it was a great movie. Fire Down Below, I think is what it's called. Man on Fire. Man on Fire. I really liked that movie, and I thought Dakota Fanning was fantastic in it. Like, very, very talented, because she wasn't just screaming and being an obnoxious little kid. She actually had like a good role in it, and so you can have kids in movies and have it work out, but when they're just there to be obnoxious,
no,
thank you.
Why
do people?
It's hard to relate. It's hard to relate to, when they're an important character, in my opinion. So that's another problem with kids in movies. In a major role,
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on the world. Jurassic World is the most annoying kids in movie trope ever. I really wanted those, like that. That's another one where I was rooting for the dinosaurs.
Crunch.
Yeah. I'm like,
I don't know.
Honestly, even in the first one, I was rooting for the dinosaurs when it came to the kids. I'd be like, just let the adults survive, and
I don't know how my family was able to drag me to Jurassic World when it came out, but I wanted it to end. I wanted to leave. I'm not a movie guy, and if I'm at home and I'm watching a movie and I don't like it, I turn it off. I don't have to finish something I don't like. I turn it off, and I wanted to go home, but
God,
the rest of the family was watching it. So
I powered through, and I'll give you a great example of one there where I just had to I'm committed. I'm going to see it through, because it was on Amazon Prime, and I was waiting for my computer to transfer files or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I'll watch a movie because I'm transferring like terabytes at a time.
Yeah,
big porn collection. But that has to be preserved.
Yeah.
But
He's not joking, folks.
I watched the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie
Wow.
because I've
I
seen
can
all
only
the other
imagine
Furious
how
Few
bad that
things.
was.
Oh my god, it was a Kevin Smith film, and in many ways it was modern Kevin Smith in that the jokes really weren't very clever. It was super campy. But at the end, it had a little bit of heart to it, like, and that's it. Like the ending was okay, but getting there was fucking tough. And to be honest, like his daughter, because he puts his daughter in everything, like she's actually like learning to act. She didn't do terrible in that movie. I don't think she's like ready for an Oscar or anything, or super complex role, but she did all right. I mean, especially for a nepotism hire. But I Trey Courtney does, he hates his daughter, and she's kind of a weirdo. It had a decent ending, but man, getting there was tough. I would not recommend that movie. I would not give it a passing grade overall, but it's so frustrating because there's hints of good Kevin Smith still left. You can see it every now and then in a couple scenes, and
Yeah.
and little pieces of his movie is like, oh, that was old Kevin Smith right there. What more of that? What happened to him?
Yeah.
It's sad. But yeah, I did consider turning it off like a quarter of the way in. I was like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hey, before we close this out, I found something that the Sentinel retweeted, and I traced this back to the original, and it's from Bill Crystal, formerly of Weekly Standard, that got canceled, ended its publication about 10 years ago?
Human
Something like that.
garbage.
Yeah. So I don't want to share my screen because fucking Twitter, but well, let me throw it into what's it called? Brave, where I'm not logged in.
Yeah.
And you got to see this.
The KKK scene was kind of funny, Trey.
I'm going to
That
clip
was a
that.
scene that was kind of funny. Come on. I mean, it was stupid, but it was kind of funny. I don't know.
I am going to show this. So, all right, the original tweet, not the original tweet, but what originally started this was Crystal. And again, guys, Bill Crystal of Weekly Standard magazine. He says he's quote tweeting Ben Jacobs, who said Ron DeSantis tells CPAC people look to Florida as citadel of freedom who are chafing under authoritarian rule all over the world. His example of authoritarian rule is Australia. So Bill Crystal says, you know where people who cherish freedom are looking today? To Ukraine, about which DeSantis, a former member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, apparently didn't have the courage to say a word because he's scared Donald Trump or Tucker Carlson might criticize him. Okay? So then this Jeremy Redfern, who is someone, he quote tweets Bill Crystal and says, DeSantis fought in a war that you wanted, a war you didn't have to fight. You should sit this one out. Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good slam.
Man, I'll tell you what, dude, like over the last 5-10 years, a lot of people on the right it's almost like they're becoming anti-war, and there's all this backlash against neoconservatives. Like really bad. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
like really bad. It's crazy. But that's pretty savage right there.
That's pretty
Then, of
savage,
course,
and you know, I endorse his Target because anything that can be harshly directed towards Mr. Crystal is well earned.
Yeah, he's
such a smug little fuck. I just can't like
remember
I never liked him, but like because I just found him just to be just so smug and ugh.
Remember when he was on what was the 5 o'clock show that Britt Hume used to originally host, and now it's that Brett Bayer, like the main like news show, that comes on.
Brett Hume?
Special Report is what it is. I think it's still on. But at the end they'd bring in the panel, and it was usually Bill Crystal. It was shit, who else would they Charles Krauthammer, who was amazing. Very smart guy, and I liked most of his takes. He was the one that was a quadriplegic.
Yeah, he would. He was worth listening to. He was just not great on TV. Like, he was too. He didn't boil it down into simple enough terms. He got too into the weeds on a lot of policy issues, and I think that kind of hurt his popularity as an analyst.
Yeah,
but
then you had Juan Williams, who, if Matt Mixon is still listening, for 15 years we've been railing about how Juan Williams is a complete idiot and piece of garbage. Like, here's Geraldo right here, and here's Geraldo. Here's Juan Williams. That's how much better he is than Geraldo, and then everyone else is like up here. I can't stand Juan Williams. He has like
he's just the token
taste.
adversary, and I don't mean token in a racial way. I mean token as far as like dissent goes. He's just like, well, I'm going to take the opposite position, and then he's just really terrible at rationalizing it because I don't even think he believes half the dumb shit he has to say on that thing. But speaking of, because we're going through like Fox News hosts, I want to take a moment to express my condolences to the Beckel family. Bob Beckel had recently passed away.
What? When?
This last week.
I didn't know that. I didn't see it anywhere.
I will tell you, like, Beckel is a diehard Democrat, super liberal, right? Led a bit of a colorful life, but when he was on like The Five, he was fun. He was legitimately funny, and he added to the show. Like,
let me pull up a picture of him here.
He's an example of a guy that I could absolutely disagree, like almost to the point where I want to choke him. Disagree so much, but I could still, I could see myself like fucking shooting darts and drinking beers with the dude. And like I, as much as I hated his viewpoints and everything like that, I genuinely actually kind of like the guy.
Good grief, the internet.
And he certainly was not a perfect man in his personal lives and other dealings as well. But very few people. I mean, just look at CNN. But I thought he was great on The Five. I thought that, like, him and Greg were great. Kind of going
Greg
back and forth
Gutfeld.
sometimes. Greg Gutfeld. And I was sad. I was sad to hear that. Yeah, that's him right there, Bob Beckel.
Yeah, and he was doing interviews with O'Reilly and exposing a lot of that Clinton stuff and all that. So yeah.
I mean, just a dyed and true blue liberal Democrat, but
yeah,
I found him to be likable and entertaining nonetheless. So
anyway, so you'd have Juan Williams, and then they'd usually rotate people out. They'd have a chick sometimes. Trying to think of who they'd have like that was female. People I can't remember their name, but then sometimes they'd have Mort Kondracki or Fred Barnes, right?
Oh yeah, more yeah.
And those two guys
they had their own show. on like
Yeah, the
Sundance
Beltway
and shit.
Boys.
Beltway Boys, yeah.
Yeah. And Mort Kondracki was from Roll Call, which is ostensibly like a independent publication. And then, of course,
Yep.
Fred Barnes was also from the Weekly Standard. So,
Yep.
yeah. Gosh. Oh, man, those days. Yeah. But yeah, Crystal was on there, and I couldn't stand him. Now, his father, I think Irving Crystal, I think he was a little bit better of a guy, but also a neoconservative. And I've read a lot of his essays and stuff, and I don't completely disagree with him, but I just think they try to oversimplify everything, like we talked about earlier in the stream. Let's go make democracy happen, all over the world. It's not that easy, guys. If the people don't want it,
Right.
then it's not going to happen. And a lot of these places, they don't understand democracy, so it's not going to happen. And that's why I hate to say it, but that's why you have to break the country and rebuild it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, like if you look traditionally, like you beat a country until their people just couldn't take it anymore.
yes.
And gave up. Like that's you have to defeat the enemy's willpower, willingness to fight. That's when you win. It's not taking a particular capital and things like that, because then you just have insurgencies and all that other fun stuff that you got to deal with. And boy, we certainly learned that lesson over the last 20 some years, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
But yeah, I don't necessarily like. I'm not an isolationist. I do believe that the United States does have a role to play in the world, and I think it's dangerous to ignore festering problems in the world. However, I do not think it should be like the United States' sole responsibility to bear that burden. And I think that it is our right to be selective in which wars that we're willing to battle, and I think we should be selective.
I agree.
Okay.
No, Shatner didn't die, but Sally Kellerman on the left died. So R.I.P. This is from the first episode with Kirk, where no man has gone before. She was the one that also got affected by the shiny eyes, power.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
She ended up.
So she passed away. She was on MASH, a mainstay on MASH and some other stuff. So
God,
R.I.P.
her in that picture.
Yeah. So cool.
Well, I mean, they had to take that promo shot before he got his shirt torn off.
Yeah. Do you know who she looks like here? She looks like Alice Eve in Star Trek Into Darkness.
She almost looks like she could be like that, like a young Sybil Shepherd too, a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, Alice Eve.
Yeah.
That was the only good thing in that that whole movie. That 2 seconds.
Yeah, that scene where she's just like, "Look at me. What are you staring at?" Thanks.
And you know what's great is, I mean, people really, really criticized her in that movie, like, oh, that's just so sexist and gratuitous. And it's like, man, did you watch any movies in the 80s, for fuck's sake? But she kind of came out and said, like, fuck. I'm paraphrasing. She obviously didn't say it like this, but like, fuck you. I worked hard to get in shape to do that thing. I'm proud of that. Look at me. I look good. I'm like, yes, that's the right response. Like, fuck you. I worked hard to look that good for that scene. I thought I looked great. I'm like, you did, sweetheart, you did. I mean, that was certainly an upgrade in the looks department over, the Wrath of Khan Carol Marcus, but I still like the Wrath of Khan Carol Marcus better as a character, of course.
For sure. Well, guys, we got to wrap it up because I got to start thinking about going to bed here. It's midnight Central Time. So, Greg, thanks for coming on, and we had a lot of great conversation. It was kind of impromptu. It was impromptu, not kind of impromptu.
I was like, "Are you streaming?" It's Dale's fault because we were
I was making a comment on something, and I said, man, I feel like going live for Grounds of Expediency, and Trey's like, I'll watch, and Sentinel's like, I'll watch, and I'm like, man. And then Dale replies like, we should do it and stream on Odyssey. And I'm like, okay, let me figure out how to do that. I come in here, figure it out in about 20 minutes, and I get it set up. So we're on Odyssey, everyone. I think we'll do that every time now that we stream on this channel and on the main channel on the open airlock policy. So
yeah,
sweet.
They are probably, as far as streaming services go, they are the most, or I should say, the least censoring. That's part of the way that platform's built. So
yeah, guys, like go to, I can't find a link here, but go to Odyssey and search for my username and follow me. I only have like 25 followers, so make sure you do that. It's not really something I've ever pushed, but we need to start using it more often since it's so easy to do. So we'll stream here on YouTube and on Twitch and on Odyssey and however many places, just so that we can get the most exposure possible. But yeah, gotta go, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks to Small Time for the super chat. By the way, Greg, before we went off air Saturday night, did I read a $50 super chat from Jock Nerdy? I was too wasted to remember.
I don't remember.
I think I would have remembered that. So I think he played his game where he does it at the end. So Jock Nerdy, thanks for the $50. He said, dude, seriously, happy birthday. So thank you. Sorry I missed that. He does that, though. He'll do it at the very last second. So anyway, guys. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. Make sure you guys follow us on there, because we're going to be doing a lot more on there. Maybe some exclusive stuff every now and then. All right. Enough said. We're going to get out of here. We'll see you sometime in the near future. Later.
Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Where do you get this bureaucratic bull?
You have all the character references of a politician.
Intelligence has nothing to do with politics.
This president is not above the law.
If the dirty air don't get you, the politicians will.
The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away.
These orders have forced us to declare independence.